and he's going to house it.
It's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another Angle of Pursuit podcast, your fantasy football, sports betting, and NASCAR home. I am your host, Kyle Robert. You follow me on Twitter at NotoriousKRO. With me, as always, back from his Vegas vacation, it's Brian Twining. Brian, tell us all about your experiences at the Pennzoil 400. And yeah, just give the people a little sampling of how your weekend was.
Yeah, man, it was fantastic. Like, it was better than what I had expected to lead off with. I mean, this was my first ever Cup Series race. I actually got into Vegas on Friday, had to do a little work, but was able to actually catch the Truck Series race on Friday night. I mean, there was like nobody there, so it was the perfect time to go. I got to choose wherever I wanted to sit. And then Sunday rolled around, got to the track really early, like a half hour before it actually opened. I went a little bit out and got, they called it the Neon Garage Pass, which was kind of like you got to go back behind pit row and see all the cars' garages and all this stuff. It was really cool to just see the cars in the garages and then watching the teams set them up prior to the race, roll them out to the track. You got to see Kyle Busch go through the whole technical specs with NASCAR having to use that backup car. Like, we got to watch him run through the tests and fire up the engine and have the NASCAR officials measure everything. Like, it was fantastic. And then also the way the track was set up, when you have this pass, you get to go and line up near where the drivers walk out to the track for driver intros. Took a bunch of pictures, got to see like Joe Gibbs, Denny Hamlin, took a picture with Greg Biffle, Bob Pockrass. I mean, if you follow NASCAR and you follow on Twitter, like, he's probably the most renowned, like,
he's
reporter.
He's the GOAT NASCAR reporter for sure.
Yeah, and come to find out, he's actually an Indiana alum, and I had just so happened to wear my Michigan shirt that day because they were playing Ohio State, so that was an interesting conversation with him. Yeah, and then I guess just overall, like, the vibe around the track was amazing. I mean,
yeah.
Talk about people from all different walks of life. I talked to many different new fans, kind of similar to me, that are just within the past couple of years. So you can tell NASCAR is really growing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's awesome. I'm happy to hear you had such an awesome experience, and we got a really good race. It was really fun. It was really interesting. The ending was a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
It seemed like Kyle Busch was just going to cruise to the finish, and all of a sudden an accident kind of, everyone reline up, and
Yep.
Alex Bowman takes home the checkered flag, and kind of a interesting finish, a little bit controversial. I thought I was going to get my Kyle Larson win with that restart. I thought,
Dude,
here we go,
yep.
done.
That was literally, that was everybody in the stands when that last flag came out. Everyone just kind of sighed and just went, "Are you serious? It's going to happen again?" Because everyone just assumed Larson was just going to run away.
Yeah. So a quick little thing I did see on Twitter that I thought was interesting. And obviously, as you can kind of adjust these parameters however you want and get whatever outcome you want. But since 2021, Kyle Larson has 11 wins. Alex Bowman is all Team Hendrick, has 5 wins. Chase Elliott has 2 wins, and old Willie B only has 1. Now, if you roll back the calendar just a little bit, obviously Chase Elliott can take over, but it is kind of interesting to see Alex Bowman consistently fly under the radar, yet over the last year and change, 5 wins is pretty impressive.
The one thing about Bowman, though, is like each week there's so much variance in where he finishes. Like, he's kind of that boomer bust guy, which makes it really difficult to get on him in a betting perspective, because you don't know which Bowman is going to show up. Like, he's running in the low teens or winning the race, essentially.
Right. And his number is never so big that you're like, where I really need a piece of this, but it's never quite low enough where at his peak he could be in a 9-1, 8-1, whatever. So it is kind of interesting. If you have a really strong vibe and you happen to hit him, you're getting a better number at his peak, but you're also dealing with a lot more of the downside, and the books kind of put him in the middle to give a vibe. But yeah, it was a fun race. I enjoyed watching it from home. Obviously, didn't have quite the same view as you did, but it was fun nonetheless. And um, you know, f-
And yeah, just to let everybody know too, if you follow me on Twitter, I will be dropping a bunch
yeah,
of photos and or videos that I took during the race. So
yeah. Make
if you
sure
want
you're
to
following
see
Brian
some of
and
the
I
views I
on
had.
following Brian and I on Twitter and the show at FPOP. We try and share a bunch of content. Also, Instagram at AOP Podcast. Follow us everywhere. We share information. We share when the shows come out. We share our picks, all that good stuff. Speaking of our picks,
Unfortunately, we are very transparent here.
yes, and that's what we do. So we'll throw out my picks first. I felt like I had a better week, and honestly, I found some bets throughout the week that I just didn't find elsewhere. So I kind of
Yeah.
didn't add them to my card here, but um, I thought I had the Kyle Larson. I was feeling really good about it. 2 units at 5-1. Did not hit that.
Byron
Uh,
looked great.
Byron was right there, top 5. Unfortunately, couldn't get to top 3. I was feeling really good about that. Um, we Ricky Stenhouse, like his restarts were a mess. His
His
pit
pit
stuff was a mess.
his pit crew, he was the like replication of Ryan Blaney
Mhm.
at Auto Club in terms of his pit stalls. Like
Yeah,
he would come in 10th or 11th spot and leave 6 spots down after
yeah.
every single stoppage. So he definitely got screwed there. And then I actually had to text Kyle late in the race to ask what happened. And yeah, he wound up getting that speeding penalty,
Yep.
which cost us the top 10 at the end of the race. So
Yeah, how is the obviously, we were chatting throughout the race and stuff, but in terms of communicating that kind of stuff, do they make announcements over the PA, or is that something you just really need to go to Twitter or, get one of the radios to listen to the call over Sirius XM or whatever?
yeah, so I guess you can rent like headphones that give you access to all the team's radio signals and or
Mm,
like the radio broadcast from MRN. And they
yeah.
do have like a video board and an announcer at the track who gives you updates and stuff like that. And sometimes they do cutaways to whatever the TV reporter like on track people are, but I mean, when you really think about it, when you were because I was sitting pretty close to the finish line and just like 30 rows up from the track,
Yeah.
unless you really don't like your hearing or you've already lost your hearing, you have earplugs in. So
Yeah.
all you hear is a bunch of
Yeah.
like you can't make out what these people are saying.
I'm thinking it might be like bring an iPad or like a big iPhone to the track with your AirPods and
I will
listen
say
to.
though, mobile connectivity was crap at
Oh,
the track. Like it a lot of times there was just no service.
yeah, especially out in the middle of the desert, I could
Yeah.
see that being the case. So yeah, interesting. Although, so my early best bet was Austin Dillon over Austin Cindric, and if you got it early, you got a really good number.
Yep.
I got -105. I did -110 for the show because that's what it was when we recorded. It ended up flipping throughout the week. Or no, that was the Austin Dillon over Kurt Busch that I mentioned. I didn't put it on my card, but I did actually bet that live. So yeah, it was good to see Austin Dillon come through. But overall, not the greatest week, despite feeling pretty good about everything coming out. We'll take a look at what Brian has before we get into this week. So Brian, like me, not too many winners on the card, but that's okay. Ryan Blaney.
All I gotta say about that man is Brad Keselowski. He must have telekinesis or something, and he just knows that I'm betting against him or something. He's out to get my bets every
Yeah.
single week.
Yep,
The
or
fact
spin out
that
the drivers that you like.
the fact that Blaney wasn't even involved in Keselowski's spinning and still got caught up in that,
Yeah.
I just don't know what to do anymore with this dude. Maybe I have to bet him to get him
Uh-huh.
out of the way. So, maybe this is the plan going forward. I bet on Keselowski and then bet everybody else, like all of his matchups against him,
Yep.
because maybe that's like the reverse
Yep.
kind of
Bet on
psychology that
him.
I need.
He'll spin himself out and then you'll be looking money. So there's our overall record. After feeling really good last week, having that Larson winner, I thought I was going to go back to back. that was not the case. So I'm down a couple of bucks, 0.29 units, not too bad. Brian's down 8 units, not ideal, but very early in the season, very long way to go. We're gonna start piling up the dubs here in a little bit.
Haven't hit a winner yet, so
Yep, I feel the winners coming. So, speaking of winners, let's throw up the odds and take a look. Brian, can you see those numbers? Okay,
oh yeah, they look
cool,
beautiful.
cool. Um, once again, Kyle Larson is your betting favorite.
Ridiculous.
I also have the circa numbers pulled up thanks to Nick Giffen, Rotodoc on Twitter. Like a must follow for anybody who has any sort of interest in NASCAR. Let me find those. But yeah, Brian, while I pull that up, early looks, we'll start inside kind of the 10-1. So Ryan Blaney on up. Where's your head and potentially your dollars heading this week?
Well, I think Martin Truex makes a case for the next guy after Larson. I mean, obviously, again, it's probably you're probably good betting Larson every week, but then also hedging with somebody else. Truex has done really well at Phoenix. He does really well at these kind of like flatter kind of tracks. And that 7.5 number is a little bit hefty for me still. Like I don't like betting anything inside that 10-1 number for an hour, but for all those guys right there, him and I guess Hamlin too, because Hamlin was the fastest car on the track in Vegas, and kind of like Keselowski, he just effed himself over. So, those two guys are kind of my favorite inside that 10-1 number if I was going away from Larson.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely a lot more open to it, especially when we're not talking about Daytona or Talladega or any of like the super speedway races. Speaking of Hamlin, over at ifantasyrace.com, Ryan's got some great tools and free content up there. But he has a shorter flat track for 2021, like total speed. And Denny Hamlin was actually number one. He was, so this includes Phoenix 1 and 2, Richmond 1 and 2, and New Hampshire. He was the second fastest car in Phoenix 1, second fastest in Richmond, fifth in New Hampshire, second in Richmond, and fourth in Phoenix number 2. So incredibly fast at this style of track. Provides an interesting number there. So per Nick Giffen, so over at Circa, traditionally a little bit sharper of a book. The numbers are a little tighter. They also take bigger bets, so that kind of pushes the numbers quicker. Larson is plus 483, so he's probably closer to 5-1. So
that
tells you that despite how much a lot of us like to bet Larson and how often he wins, the sharps are kind of off him a little bit this week. Truex, Hamlin, Elliott are all 7-1 over there. Kyle Busch is 8. Ryan Blaney and Joey Logano at 9.5-1. And then you get into double digits. I'll hit some of those guys, but my first bet out of here is Joey Logano. Love him this week. I tweeted Brian probably Monday. I said that he will be on my card, and that's where I'm starting my card. Basically, 9.5, 10. If you can find it, love it. I think he's going to absolutely have an amazing race this week. Runs really well on these shorter, flatter tracks. He is third in the ifantasyrace.com average speed from 2021. Has looked solid so far to start the year, and has won in Phoenix. So I think he comes out. I think he performs well, and if you can get 9-1 or better, I think you should grab it.
Like we said, I'm not on Logano, so that's probably a good thing for Kyle this week. And I'm not really against him either. Like he ran really good at Vegas last weekend, so I can definitely see the reason in going there. Especially you're getting a little bit of extra juice there in addition to what Elliott or Hamlin and Truex are offering with a guy that offers just as good a potential at this track. So I don't mind going up to Logano at that 9-1 number.
Yep. We'll scroll down a little bit more and we'll get into the double digits, starting with Ryan Blaney at 10, 12. I mean, if you have access to FanDuel, you get him at 13. I know he's on your card, Brian, so talk to me about Ryan Blaney and You're just going to keep going back to the well until this guy gets a win?
This is literally going to be my who was it? A couple of years ago in football, towards the back end of the year, I just kept betting every week Robert Woods and Mike Williams to catch a touchdown,
Yep.
and it finally hit. And it hit on the week that I parlayed them too, so it was a big number. But Blaney has been running too good not to potentially get a victory soon coming up. I mean, Keselowski gets out of his way last week. Blaney's going to be inside that top 5 running at the end there. So I think at his number at where it is at 12-1, 13-1 at FanDuel, like that's too good of a number to pass up for a driver that's been driving as good as he has.
Yeah.
And it's just been a few things here or there that have cost him the chance to win the race.
Yeah, and for reference, Circa has him at 9.5 to 1.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
the big money smart people are on Ryan Blaney, and that's why that number is a lot lower than most places. Yeah, I'm with you, and honestly, he is on my short list, and by the time we get to Saturday, could very much be on the card. We'll dive a little deeper. We got Willie B. We got Kevin Harvick, who's interesting. I don't know if I love him for outrights, but I might be a little more interested in placing.
Oh, I love his placement numbers this week.
Alex Bowman, the guy who won last week, Tyler Reddick. He's starting to settle in an area that I feel like is more appropriate for the driver he is.
He's like a top 10 guy.
They were getting a little aggressive with his numbers. Yeah. Almirola is the name that kind of jumps out as this is a weird spot for him, but he's been phenomenal at these kind of tracks. He's been phenomenal at Phoenix. And depending on how qualifying goes, I could very much see him as a big piece of my DraftKings lineups. Christopher Bell is the next name for me.
Yep, me too. We like this. This is scary because
I don't love that, but I got him at 25.
Yep.
I know there was some 30s hanging out. The aforementioned Circa has him at 16-1. So that tells you what you need to know there.
I think the perfect example of Christopher Bell's numbers, and I think the books will eventually adjust. And this was the same that we kept saying last year about William Byron early in the season, that the books just hadn't quite figured it out yet. And then when they did, you were not getting great numbers there. Yeah. But when you look at Bell last week, he opened the week at 30-1. It was a number that I was on outside of the show. And as soon as qualifying happened and he sat on the pole, his number dropped as low as 16-1 at some places. So like the value is there at the moment for a driver like him, because if he comes and shows up the way that he's actually been driving on the track, this number is going to go well below that, probably closer to that Byron Blaney spot.
Yeah, I really hope I get that 30-1, 25-1 win. Like, I hope I don't have to bet it at 15 or 12 to get the win, but I feel like he'll have to actually take the checkered flag in order for them to move. But maybe if he keeps piling up, top 5s, then they'll be a little more aggressive in shortening his numbers. But yeah, I love him this week. I think he makes a ton of sense, and I think the William Byron comp is from last year is like a perfect one. I think as the season goes along, that number will get tighter and tighter, and it'll be opening at 15 or 16 or 18 instead of opening at 30 and getting shorter. Because the books aren't going to want to take all that money and get the L's. Right behind him, Brad Keselowski, 30, 35, 40, depending on where you look. He's 25 at Caesars for some reason. That's kind of interesting. Caesars, FanDuel, and DraftKings are just kind of doing their own thing, which I respect the hell out of. But that gives you opportunities where if you really like one driver and you have opportunities to get to all these places, figure out where their number is sitting. Cause there's some guys that I would love at 30 and won't touch with a 20-foot pole at 15. And so shop it, look around. Austin Cindric, 50. He is actually, where did I see him? He's 65 at Circa, which feels like a nice number. Like, I could get to Cindric at 65. I don't love him this week, but has some success on the Xfinity track at Phoenix, runs really well, has looked good so far.
I was just going to say, I think I think just betting on the way his form on the track this year is a good spot to get on. I know I'm not too keen on his total wins prop for the rest of the year. Now that he's won the Daytona 500, like it's a little bit scary trying to get another victory out of him. But
Yeah, I'm wondering.
He's running fast.
Yeah, I want to look up that prop now and see where it's currently sitting because I'm curious where the juice is taking it. And I think if you can get to a place where like circa where he's 65, then the top 5 numbers, the top 10 numbers might be a little more appealing.
Oh yeah.
Because I would love a piece of him at that. I don't know that I'm necessarily betting him outright, but I think at the finishing position, we'll flip over and look at DraftKings and then eventually FanDuel as well, just to kind of get a number. Ross Chastain is somebody that I'm going to talk a lot about, but I don't think I'm going to bet the outright. But he's looked great to start the season, and maybe he's due for a little regression and coming back to kind of the driver he is. But I think the fact that he was able to take his whole team, his crew chief, everything with him when he moved and get into a better ride and kind of progress forward and have all the experience from last year has just set him up to kind of vault into a new class of driver. And I think he is a guy that we should be looking at each and every week as a potential, even if we're not looking at the outrights, top 5s, top 10s, matchups, head to heads, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna say his top 10s going forward are gonna be one of the most like highly sought after spots for me in particular, just because of knowing like the form that he's shown. And like last week, I know I had referenced it that clean air was king at Las Vegas. Like whoever got out to the front was pretty much pacing the field and running away from everybody. But that being said, even when he lost the lead, he was still competing right there with the top 3 cars. So you can tell that he's kind of rounding in the form as a driver. And like you said, he's got a better vehicle, better team. So he's going to be at every week kind of in that top 10 market. And anytime you can get like 1.5 to 1 on him or close to 2 to 1 numbers, depending on what kind of track we're at, it's probably going to be a number that you want to get on early in the week.
Yep. 100%. You're going to want to monitor those because those numbers are moving quickly. And all of a sudden when by the time we're talking about Friday or Saturday, it's minus 105, minus 125 instead of plus 105, 125. Anyone else in this range that you're considering in terms of outrights?
This is going back to one of last year's favorites, and that's Eric Jones at that 60, 66 to 1. I think he's turning into this week's Ricky Stenhouse for me. Yeah, he had a late crash. He's the one that actually caused the caution that ruined our Stenhouse features and, Larson or whoever winning. But he's been great this year. He's like a different driver this season.
I think he's the same driver. I think he just got out of the tin can that he had to drive around the track last year and is getting back to the guy that we loved 2 years ago and looked like a guy ready to take that next step. And yeah, I'm with you. I like him quite a bit. And I think now that he's with our, running that 43 car, looking really good, looking really comfortable. And I think as the season goes along, I think we might not get as many of these numbers with some of these guys.
True.
As they realize these cars are a lot closer. Like they make the competition a little bit closer than in previous years where, there was a clear drop off from certain chunk to certain chunk. So yeah, I like that call quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't been the most successful guy at Phoenix. No. I mean, each of the last 4 times here, he's placed outside the top 20, but that was kind of in lower end vehicles for whatever team he was running with. I'm basing this off of this year's performance, which is kind of surprised. And the fact, like for him, his top 10 market to me is really intriguing. And there's a lot of guys this week that I'm on in that because we've seen it this year. We're going to see a lot of variance in terms of finishing positions and all that with the new car, everyone trying to get established with the car at these tracks. So it's not going to be the status quo per se every single week going forward.
Let's flip over and look at the aforementioned finishing positions over at DraftKings, and then we'll do FanDuel as well. If a sportsbook would like to sponsor us, you can hit up our email. We will be happy to take your money and show your lines exclusively. But until that happens, we will give everyone an appearance. Ryan Blaney top 5 plus 125. I like that number quite a bit.
Yes, that has already found its way onto my card. Actually, from BetMGM, a better number, plus 140 at the moment.
Beautiful. And that's why it's ever important to shop these numbers. Almirola plus 350. I don't hate that. Let's flip over and look at the top 10s, though, because I think that is interesting. The one thing I have found, Brian, that I thought was interesting is DraftKings does 3, 5, and 10. FanDuel does top 3 or top 10. They don't do top 5.
Yeah, they don't have the 5 market.
And I don't understand that, but okay.
I feel like that one is a little bit more risky for the sportsbook because the odds have to be that much longer for people to kind of get in on that, because it's a little bit, it's a lot harder.
Yeah. So we'll dive down here until we get some plus money, unless there's someone you want to make sure we hit on.
I wanted to hit it before we get into that plus money, but Eric Almirola has top 10 at Phoenix, I think in like 8 of the last 10 trips here, or 9 of the last 10. And this year has been kind of a resurgence for the soon to be retired driver for Stewart Haas. So I'm all over that number. I know it's not necessarily something I enjoy, is laying the extra juice on a top 10, but I see him competing up there again, and he's done pretty well in terms of avoiding contact and traffic. So I like Almirola quite a bit this week for top 10.
Yeah, I like that call quite a bit. And at minus 125, I can get to. I mean, it's like we're talking, when you start getting like the minus 180s, the minus 225s.
Yeah, that's a little bit too short.
They can be fun to throw in a parlay or something, but
exactly.
Not something I definitely want to get to. Let's see here. As we scroll down, the Cindric even money, we can look at FanDuel too and try and get a better number, because I think we will be able to. But don't hate that. Eric Jones here, 2-1 top 10. I think it makes a ton of sense. Cole Custer, I don't hate it, 3.5-1. I feel like he's going to be a guy I'm just going to kind of gravitate towards in the top 10 market. I feel like he's a little bit better than his number indicates, but not necessarily a guy that I want to take as a top 5 or an outright.
Yeah, on Custer, I tweeted out yesterday, actually, he's one of the most intriguing numbers for me on that top 10 market because of how long it is. I mean, it's such a great number, and he's finished here 9th and 13th in 2 of the last 4 races. So, he has the ability to run near the top 10. He was 11th at Auto Club 2 weeks ago. I know last week he got involved in some early, he was the early spinner for the Vegas race. But in terms of being able to top 10, like I said, the weirdness of this season and guys getting into the top quarter of the field is it's too widely pronounced to avoid guys at this kind of number that can get into that market at such a long number.
Yeah. I did want to throw out a little a nugget from RotoDoc. So Todd Gilliland, you can find it at better numbers other places, but 17-1 to top 10 here. This is a guy who in his previous racing series has run really well at these kind of tracks, has shown the ability to be a little bit more ready to take that leap this year. I know he's not a very well-known name. I know he's not a guy that a lot of us are comfortable betting, but when you can get 17-1, or when we flip over and look at FanDuel, 35, 36-1 to top 10, that's a nice shot to take that actually has a real chance of hitting and coming to fruition.
Yeah, no, and that's what we talk about. Like, if you have the ability to shop around at these different sports books, that's why when you find a number, your first like inclination shouldn't be to bet it. It should be, hey, let me check the other books that I have available to me to see where the best spot is to get in on.
Yeah, and a lot of times, obviously, okay, I have these 3, 4, whatever.
Yeah.
There are some good sites that typically show you all the odds, but with finishing position and stuff, sometimes those are a little bit harder to find. So this is top 10 over at FanDuel. Christopher Bell minus 125. I like a lot. Almirola is minus 120 here. I like that a lot. Ross Chastain plus 165. I like that a lot. Eric Jones plus 210. I think what was he 2-1 at DraftKings. I think FanDuel for some of these guys just gives you a slightly better juice just so you come over and play it. There's a guy that Brian likes right there. He's Gilliland's down to 26-1 now. So he is moving a little bit in the market, but that's still throw $10 on it, win yourself 260. All you have to do is finish in the top 10. You're feeling really good about yourself, Brian.
Yeah, the Ty Dillon one. I will actually be placing that top 10 there for a quarter unit.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not necessarily been competitive in that market, but for a guy that he routinely finishes inside the top 20 at Phoenix in both the Xfinity and the Cup Series. And with the way this season's gone, again, I'm going to continue hearkening on that. All it takes is him to avoid getting into one of those wrecks and just be there at the end. And like one thing I noticed about him is the fact that he's finished on the lead lap in all 3 races so far for a lower end driver is really impressive. So if he can continue that streak this week going into Phoenix, why not? I mean, it's such a big number at such a small investment for a nice payday.
Yeah, it'd be really nice if we can get some top 20 markets because we might be able to get more Ty
Yeah.
Dillon, a little more BJ McLeod, a little Justin Haley, find some fun. We'll look at some group betting really quick and then we'll hit our best bets and then we'll get out of here and we'll be back to break everything down Sunday morning in your feed. And let's take a look. We got Kyle Busch, Martin Truex, Joey Logano, Chase Elliott. I don't hate Logano at plus 270 to finish ahead of the other 3. But I am team Joey Logano this week. Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, William Byron, Kevin Harvick.
Ugh.
Harvick at 3-1. I don't hate. I feel like he's just so he's like safe.
Okay. So for instance, Harvick has finished inside the top 10 in 17 consecutive races at Phoenix. But of those 17, I think he only has like 4 top 5s or something. It's something ridiculous to the point where he's not going to compete at the top part of the grid. He's just there in the top 10.
Yeah, see, I'd rather get him in head-to-heads versus all these guys because I feel like I get hit 2 out of the 3 rather than having to hit all 3. Tyler Reddick, Alex Bowman, Christopher Bell, Brad Keselowski. I really like Christopher Bell at plus 260 here.
Oh yeah, you're gonna see Christopher Bell a lot on my card this week. Like pretty heavily.
Versus Hamlin, pretty interesting if you like Hamlin. Blaney obviously taking all the money against William Byron. I will take Joey Logano versus Martin Truex. Thank you. I'm actually gonna put that on the card. And then Kurt Busch versus Chase Briscoe.
Okay, let's make this fun this week. You got Logano, I got Truex. Let's make it.
Let's go.
Let's make it an even bet.
Let's go.
No juice.
Let's do it. I wanted to look at top 10 for Kevin Harvick just for gigs. Minus 150. Don't love that. What is he over here? Minus 165, even worse. So yeah, don't love that. Okay, Brian, we went through the odds, we went through the matchups, we went through the everything. We are going head to head with Joey Logano versus Kevin Harvick, versus Martin Truex. But before we get out of here today, what is your best bet here on Wednesday for the Ruoff Mortgage 500 at Phoenix Motor Speedway?
Well, like I said, at this moment, you're going to find them on my card a lot this week, and I want to be ahead of the market adjustment. So this week I'm going to go for this show, I'm going Christopher Bell to top 10 at minus 125 at FanDuel for 3 units as my best bet as we stand here recording on Wednesday night.
Spicy. I like it. I like it a lot. I am also going with a 3-unit play.
Ooh.
I bet this at plus money, but for the show purposes, I'll find the best line, and I think DK has it because thanks to FanDuel, they don't have a top 5. Joey Logano, top 5, minus 125, 3 units. I learned my William Byron lesson last week. Even though the number is better, I would like to take the extra 2 places and give myself some wiggle room so I can cash more dubs and build that bankroll a little bit. So I am going Joey Logano, top 5 over at DraftKings, minus 125, 3 units, please. 3 units.
Watch out for Big Bad Brad.
Oh God. If he wrecks my day, I'm going to be very disappointed. That's Brian Twining. I'm Kyle Robert. Like I said, we'll be back post qualifying, usually in your feed Sunday morning. Check it out. Let us know what you think about DraftKings in the comments. If you made it this far, let us know your favorite bet or your favorite outright bet for the Ruoff Mortgage 500. Make sure you smash that subscribe button. Make sure you hit the bell notification. Hit the thumbs up. Do all the things. Tell all your friends to come check us out. It really does do a lot for the show.
Yes.
Help keep us creating this great content for you. And we'll talk to you guys after qualifying.